I could stay like this, forever following you. Just don't get too far.
Hey there and welcome to this month's edition of In the Labs with me, Becky. This month I'm going to show you how to create this very simple heart-shaped box. Now the box itself is formed of two parts. We have a lid and we've got the base of the box. Now the lid itself has a nice texture pattern put into there to give it a little bit of a contemporary twist. The lid sits inside of the base to close the box. Now the base of the box, we've created a simple pocket to create the depth inside of the box where we've engraved a nice message in there, and then on the back of the box we also have another VCarved message to put in on the back, and the two parts go together nice and snug like so. So this will make for the perfect Valentine's gift. So let's take a look at how we built the part.
Okay, so if we open an existing file, so you're going to have the heart-shaped box.crv file. So you can open this up in VCarve Desktop, VCarve Pro and Aspire. So some important information for you to read here. So first off, this is a two-sided job. Okay, so we're going to do this as two-sided machining. The material that I'm using is a width of 9 inches, a height of 15 inches, and the thickness is just under 1 1/4. And as you've seen earlier, this is a two-part box where we have the box base. Okay, so it's kind of pocketed down. We've got a lid with a texture on the top, and then on the bottom here we've got some text V-carved into the bottom, and then we've got the underside of the lid. So this lid basically slots in to this portion of the box so that we have a closed heart-shaped box. So let's start off by looking at the vectors. So I started off by drawing a simple heart which forms the outline of the box, in which I copied that to create this one, so that I know that when the lid and the base come together we're going to have a nice join up there. Everything's going to be in line with each other because we're using the same vector outline. I took this vector, created an offset to create a wall, and the idea is that would create a pocket toolpath using this vector here, where what I actually did was I filleted this part out according to the radius of the tool that I'm using. So originally the offset looked like this, but I've created a fillet there, and this is more so for the underside for this part of our lid here. So I needed the tool to fit in here so that this part can slot in to the base of the actual box itself. So going back to the top side, so that's pretty much that. So we're creating a pocket in here. Once we've done the pocket, I'm going to look at V-carving in some text here. So I just put a simple, nice Valentine's message, I love you, and the original text you can see is here, so you can edit that if you want to, if you've got that font, and you can see this is what the text looked like. All I did was basically convert the text to curves using this tool, and then I selected everything apart from the holes inside of the text, and then I simply just welded those to create the text that you can see here. So you can see we have everything welded together. For the bottom part of the design, which is the lid of our box, you can see I've applied that same offset, whereby I've also included all of these wiggly lines. So what are these? If we just undraw that and just click on the heart texture, you can see all I've done is just drew some lines and then basically used the Bezier tool. So right click, use the Bezier option, in which case I could then move the handles to create the curvature, and I basically did this to all of these lines, and this would form the lines for the texture that I'm going to create, which you can see here, and we'll come back to that shortly. So if I just undraw that, we'll go back to the original vectors. I then cropped those vectors to this outline of the heart here. So I did that using the trim vectors tool. You can see we've got a series of circles here, so I've measured out the diameters of some dowels that I have, as I'm going to use the dowel method to flip my material over to ensure that everything stays in line in terms of X and Y positions when it comes to flip the material over. Now, if you've not watched any videos on two-sided machining, then I'll link you to those in the PDF document for this project, as well as in the description for this video. And you can find more information out on two-sided machining there. But it's a simple process. Just use asymmetric method and it's definitely going to work. You're not going to lose alignment here. Right then, so that is the top side. So let's switch over to the bottom side. So here I've basically copied the vectors from the other side onto this side simply by using the select option, right click and use the option here, copy to the other side. So that's why they're all here now. Okay, so I've got the dowels for alignment, I've got the heart shape for the outer part of the base of our box for our cutout pass. I've also included some text here, Valentines 2019, and then for the lid you can see that I've got a few offsets. So the original vectors is this one and this one here. What I've done is I've basically offset them both outwards by a small amount, and this is just simply to create overcuts so that I know that my lid will fit nicely into the actual box part itself. So that's the reason for that. So let's take a look at the toolpath. So if we go back to the top side, switch over to our toolpaths tab. I'm just going to reset that preview and close out there. So the top side, I'm setting my Z0 on the top of the material. First toolpath is the profile for the dowels. So here I'm simply using those vectors there, and I'm just using a profile toolpath. I'm just cutting partially into the material on the inside of those circles where we're going to ramp in with a spiral ramp. So if we go ahead and preview this to see how that looks. Easy peasy. Next toolpath is a pocket toolpath. So this is where we're pocketing away at the inside of our box. Okay, so here I'm going to cut down 0.8. Feel free to cut deeper. These values are purely what I've done for my box. Please feel free to edit these according to your own designs. So here I'm using a 1/4 inch end mill again. I'm going to do this in an offset strategy, so it's going to start somewhere in the middle and it's just going to work its way out. And so we can go ahead and see how that looks. Okay, so it's going to do this. It's going to go down in several pass steps, like so. Okay, so that will be the inside of our box. This will form the wall of our box. Okay, then I've got profile texture. So here I've took the trimmed vectors for the texture here, and I'm going to cut down 0.3. So we're using a profile toolpath. I use a very large V-bit here, so I'm using 90 degree 1.5 V-bit. I'm going to machine on those vectors. So if we go ahead and preview that toolpath, see what that looks like. Okay, so it looks a little bit messy on the edges, but that's not to worry because we've got a border in there as well. So if we double click on that, we're going to profile this vector. Okay, so if we just zoom in there, so it's the original offset of the heart from the outside here, where we're going to use the same tool, cutting down 0.3, we're going to machine on there, and then we could just go ahead and preview this one here. Okay, so that's what that would look like. Okay, so we've got a nice clean edge there. I really like the look of that. It's got a nice contemporary twist. And then we've got a final toolpath here, which is our VCarve toolpath for the I love you text. So here we're just going to double click on that. Okay, so start depth is at 0.8 because we've already cut away 0.8 of the material there, so I'm going to make sure that's our start depth. You choose the tool, so I'm using a 1/4" V-bit this time. Just want to be careful, be mindful that your tool can fit inside here without it banging into the edges of the wall. So I'm sure mine's okay. I've checked the distance there, and that's pretty much all we do. So let's preview this one, and there we go, perfect. Okay, one other thing to be mindful of here when you're cutting this side is that your pocket toolpath, so this one here, make sure your tool's long enough that your collet isn't going to hit the edge, the surface of your material. Right then, so that's pretty much the top side. So at this stage, would then take the material off of the machine, and we'll go and look at machining the bottom side. So if we just switch over to the bottom side, our first point of call is to machine the dowel holes of the bottom side directly into our spoil board. So this time the bottom side, we've got it set up so that our Z0 is on the machine bed. So we're going to basically run our dowels into the spoil board. So you can see it's going to miss all of that, go straight into the spoil board like so. I'm not going to preview this because we won't actually see this on our block of material. And then once we've secured our material into the spoil board, which you'll see shortly when we get to the labs, we can then resume with the other toolpath. So what have we got here? Pocket lid on the underside. So if we double click on this here, all I'm doing is I'm just really taking away the majority of the material to create a thinner lid. So here I've just used an offset to ensure that my tool rolls past the edge of the actual cutout vector here. And we're cutting down 1/2 inch. So if we go ahead and preview that toolpath, you see what that looks like. Okay, so it's just doing that in 4 passes there, perfect. And then we've got the pocket for the lid, so if we double click on that, so you can see the vectors it's pulled up here are the offset vectors. So here we're pocketing down a little bit more, and this is going to form a kind of a wall for us to slot the lid into the base of our box. Okay, so here we're going to put a start depth of 0.5 because we've already machined away 1/2 inch, and then we're going to cut further by 1/4 inch. So let's go ahead and preview that one just to see how that looks. Excellent. Okay, so this will slot into this part of our box. Right then, so then we can move on to our next toolpath, which is the VCarve. So we've got some more text here. You can put whatever text you like in here. I just thought this is very fitting for Valentines, so we're using a VCarve toolpath here, 90° 1/4 inch V-bit, and if we go ahead and preview that, we can see what that looks like. Close out, and then finally we've got a profile pass to cut the 2 boxes out. You can see I've applied some tabs, cutting all the way through here, machining on the outside of that vector, and we're using a 1/4 inch end mill here. So let's just go ahead and preview this one, and there we have it. Okay, and so that's pretty much everything done. I'm happy with the preview. So at this stage I could go ahead and start saving out those toolpaths and ready to machine. So let's head over to the labs to see how this works out.
I could stay like this, forever following you. Just don't get too far, and I'll be right where you are. You're a dream that I could finally see. I just want us to always be, to always be.
here we have the finished box. So all I did to finish the part was just simply rub in some beeswax polish, and it's really brought the grain out of the material. And if you want to have a go at creating your own version of this heart-shaped box, then simply head over to your V&Co account where you can download the project files from there. And if you like this video, then please give us a thumbs up, and if you've not yet subscribed to our channel, then please hit the subscribe button to get instant updates on the latest videos that we'll be releasing. So thank you for watching and happy making.
Let's stay.